Can you see me? Am I there? Hello, check 1 2, check 1 2. Hey everybody, can you hear me loud and clear? Eh?
Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the wrists, okay? Because some people are talking to me all the time. They're like, Jason, when you bench press, your wrists bend backwards. What's wrong with your wrists? It's like, hey, hands do this, all right? Nothing wrong with the hands doing this. People think you have to bench press with the hands like that. It's absolutely not true. If I did, the bar would be putting all its stress onto my thumb and then roll out, right? So it just depends on how your hands are built, I guess, or your wrists or whatever, right? But the one thing I do, I don't really do, but the one thing I do is I rest the bar on the palm right here, and even if the hand is bent backwards, because the bar is on the wrist itself, right on the palm, right above it, I don't have issues with my wrists, right? So some people are like, hey, how do you not have wrist pain because your wrists are in that position? It's different. It depends on where the bar is. Now, if the bar was on the fingers and I had the wrist bent like that, that would cause an issue, right? So then you'd have to worry about the positioning of the wrists, because you are basically distributing the force or the weight in order to put stress on the wrist in that case, right? So some people, when they deal with wrist pain, they say, don't bend the wrist backwards, bend them like this. It's because of where they're placing the bar. It isn't actually because of the wrist positioning. You know, it's not really the wrist positioning itself. So, but if you are getting wrist problems or wrist pain, there's something that you should know, and not all of you may know this, is that sometimes, like say you're playing hockey or some sport, or say you fall down and you jam your wrist on the ground in a ballistic sort of push-up, sometimes the metacarpals in the wrist can get out of place. And through a mild adjustment, like a chiropractic manipulation, you can actually put that bone back in place, and then instantaneously the pain's gone. I've done it with guys in the gym. I've actually just moved the wrist around, all of a sudden they're like, oh wow, it's a miracle, the wrist pain's gone. Sometimes that's actually the case. Is one of your metacarpals or whatever, it's metacarpals are out of place. One of the bones in your wrist are actually out of place, and they just need to be adjusted. It's not always tendonitis. So when you see your chiropractor or your naturopath or whatever, get them to take a look at your wrist and see if there's something like that going on. That might be just a simple quick fix, like 2 seconds, and then all of a sudden your wrist is better, right?
Blake could win a bodybuilding show against 12-year-olds and still hold the hardcore attitude. Like, he's the only guy I know. I mean, he could compete in a sandbox.
When me and him first started,
you could compete in a sandbox. You could compete in a sandbox with a bunch of other kids and then own that hardcoreness when you come to the gym, so you never talk to me.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Well, I can't.
It's crazy. If I only had that focus, I probably would have been something.
The other thing is that when you're lifting weights, like if you're a beginner or advanced, I mean, I have seen people do this. I mean, you do want to fight gravity a bit when you're lifting weights. So say I'm doing lateral raises, right? You know, you don't walk around like JJ from the Jeffersons. You guys remember that show, Good Times, you know? Dynamite, right? Dynamite. You don't want to be lifting weights like this, right? Like, woo, you know what I mean? Woo. It's like at that point, that's like Qigong or Tai Chi or something like that. When you're lifting dumbbells, you want to make sure your wrist is tense, right? So basically you're firing those forearms to combat gravity. So you're not basically hanging the dumbbells off the edge of the wrist. The other thing is when you're doing curls, don't concentrate on curling the wrists and extending, just keep them locked in position. So basically you're actually working the biceps in that moment. You're not just basically trying to bring in too much wrist movement. Now, I'm not saying you can't train wrists, but sometimes when you're combining too many different movements together, sometimes you can strain things or move things in a weird sort of way. So I just find it's best to isolate, especially if you're already having issues with that area, for the most part. The other thing to watch is also when you're squatting. If you do have the wrists, like the bar hanging off your fingers, like say you're doing a low bar squat, instead of making sure that you use the elbows to keep that bar up on the rear delt when you're squatting, if you don't use the elbows and you're actually using the wrists and the wrists are bending back, sometimes that can cause a little bit of inflammation or some jamming in the wrist too. So try to avoid that. Try to use your elbows as much as you can if you are a low bar squatter to keep that weight up, and therefore you're not taking all the stress on your wrists. And I think that sometimes can contribute to a lot of wrist pain too with some people. So yeah, I don't have any issues with my wrist at all. I mean, funny enough, I broke this wrist and basically it was like an L shape. That's how bad I broke it when I was a kid. But yeah, I don't have any issues with my wrist at all because of where I'm placing the bar. So as long as you're placing that bar right on top of the wrist, it shouldn't be a problem, unless of course you have some other pre-existing condition or some other reason why the wrist is having pain, such as one of the bones being out of place or whatever. So yeah, I hope this helped you out in your training. Thanks a lot for watching. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalgallantbodybuilding.com, and thanks a lot to the Patreon supporters. They are dynamite! 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 It's like dinosaur.